The JonBenet Ramsey case is one of the most infamous unsolved murders in American history. On December 26, 1996, 6-year-old JonBenet, a child beauty queen, was found dead in the basement of her family's Boulder, Colorado home. Hours earlier, her parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, had reported her missing after discovering a ransom note demanding $118,000. Her death was caused by a blow to the head and strangulation. The case quickly became a media sensation, with suspicion falling on her parents and brother, as well as theories suggesting an intruder. Evidence, including the ransom note and crime scene contamination, has fueled controversy and hindered investigations. Despite numerous suspects and advanced forensic testing over the years, no one has been charged, and the case remains unsolved. The JonBenet Ramsey murder continues to captivate the public, symbolizing the challenges of high-profile investigations and the quest for justice. The Travis Alexander case gained national attention after his brutal murder in 2008 in Arizona. Alexander, a motivational speaker and salesman, was found dead in his bathroom, having suffered multiple stab wounds, a gunshot to the head, and a slit throat. His ex-girlfriend, Jodi Arias, was arrested and charged with his murder. During her trial, Arias claimed she killed Alexander in self-defense after he allegedly became abusive. However, prosecutors argued it was a premeditated act fueled by jealousy after Alexander ended their relationship and began seeing other women. The trial, marked by graphic evidence and Arias's inconsistent testimonies, captivated the media. In 2013, Arias was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The case remains infamous for its shocking details, the sensationalized trial, and the intense public scrutiny surrounding both Arias and her relationship with Alexander. The Caylee Anthony case captivated the nation in 2008 when 2-year-old Caylee was reported missing in Orlando, Florida. Her grandmother, Cindy Anthony, alerted authorities after her daughter, Caylee Anthony, failed to explain Caylee's whereabouts for a month. Caylee initially claimed a babysitter had abducted her daughter, but her story quickly fell apart under investigation. In December 2008, Caylee's remains were discovered near the Anthony family home, raising more questions about what had happened. Prosecutors accused Caylee of murdering Caylee to free herself from the responsibilities of motherhood, presenting evidence such as internet searches for methods of suffocation and traces of chloroform in Caylee's car. Caylee's defense argued that Caylee accidentally drowned in the family pool, and that Caylee's erratic behavior was a result of family dysfunction. In 2011, Caylee was acquitted of murder but convicted on lesser charges of lying to police. The controversial verdict sparked widespread outrage and ongoing debates about the justice system. Rodney Alcala, known as the dating game killer, was a notorious serial killer who murdered at least 8 women and girls between 1971 and 1979, though authorities believe his victim count could exceed 100. Alcala's crimes were marked by his manipulation and charm, as he often posed as a photographer to lure victims by offering to take their pictures. One of Alcala's most infamous moments came in 1978, when he appeared on the TV show The Dating Game and won, despite already being a convicted sex offender.
Bachelor number 1.
Yes?
What's your best time?
The best time is at night. Nighttime. Cheryl? He's a skydiver, so he's got a lot of nerve. He's into motorcycling. He's also a fine photographer. Say hello to Rodney Alcala. Rodney, come on and say hello. Congratulations, Rod. You did it with a 1 answer.
His unsettling charisma shocked the public when his crimes were later revealed. His victims were often brutally assaulted and strangled. Alcala was captured in 1980 after DNA evidence connected him to multiple murders. He was sentenced to death, but remained on death row until his death in 2021. The Laci Peterson case captivated the nation in 2002 when Laci, a 27-year-old pregnant woman, disappeared from her Modesto, California home on Christmas Eve. Her husband, Scott Peterson, claimed she went missing while walking their dog. Suspicion quickly fell on Scott due to his inconsistent behavior and the revelation of his extramarital affair with Amber Frey, who later cooperated with authorities. In April 2003, the bodies of Laci and her unborn son, Connor, were found in San Francisco Bay, where Scott had been fishing the day she disappeared. Forensic evidence and Scott's actions, including selling Laci's car and planning to flee, led to his arrest and eventual conviction. In 2004, Scott Peterson was found guilty of first-degree murder for Laci and second-degree murder for Connor. He was sentenced to death, though his sentence was overturned in 2020 and replaced with life in prison without parole. The case remains a high-profile example of media coverage influencing public perception of criminal trials. Dean Corll, infamously known as the Candyman, was a Texas serial killer responsible for the gruesome murders of at least 28 boys and young men between 1970 and 1973. His nickname came from his family's candy business in Houston, where he was known to give free candy to local children, establishing himself as a trusted figure in the community. However, behind this facade, Corll was a calculating predator who orchestrated one of the most horrific killing sprees in American history. Corll's crimes were facilitated by two teenage accomplices, Elmer Wayne Henley and David Brooks. He lured victims, usually boys aged 13 to 20, by offering them rides, parties, or money. Many victims were acquaintances of his accomplices, who helped recruit them. Once at Corll's home, the victims were restrained, tortured, and murdered. Corll disposed of their bodies in various locations, including a rented boat shed, a forest, and a beach. The extent of Corll's crimes came to light in August 1973, when his accomplice, Elmer Wayne Henley, turned on him. During an argument, Henley, fearing for his own life, shot and killed Corll. Henley then called the police, revealing the murders and leading investigators to burial sites filled with the remains of victims. The discovery of Corll's crimes shocked the nation, not only for their brutality, but also for the involvement of teenage accomplices who knowingly brought victims to their deaths. Henley and Brooks were arrested and convicted for their roles in the murders, receiving lengthy prison sentences. Dean Corll's case remains one of the most disturbing in American history due to the scale of his crimes, the betrayal of trust within his community, and the horrifying details of how he manipulated others to help carry out his killing spree. The case also highlighted flaws in law enforcement at the time, as many of the boys were initially dismissed as runaways, delaying the investigation and allowing Corll to continue his murders. The Chris Watts case is one of the most shocking instances of family annihilation in modern U.S. history. On August 13, 2018, Chris Watts, a seemingly devoted father and husband, murdered his pregnant wife, Shanann Watts, and their two young daughters, Bella and Celeste, in Frederick, Colorado. The crime shocked the nation, not only for its brutality, but because it contrasted starkly with the picture-perfect family image Shanann had shared on social media. On the morning of the murders, Shanann, who was 15 weeks pregnant with their son, Nico, returned home from a work trip. An argument ensued between the couple about Chris wanting a divorce, during which Chris strangled Shanann to death. He then transported her body in his truck, along with his two daughters, to an oil site owned by his employer. There, he smothered both Bella and Celeste before disposing of their bodies, placing the girls in oil tanks and burying Shanann in a shallow grave nearby. Initially, Chris played the part of the grieving husband and father.
We just want to see if you left a note or anything inconspicuous, something like that.
All
right. We'll wait for our sergeant to get here, but
okay.
We'll grab that. You don't plan on going anywhere, right?
No, I was just going to walk around the neighborhood just to honestly clear my head.
He appeared on local news, pleading for the safe return of his family. However, inconsistencies in his story and unusual behavior raised suspicions. When interrogated by police and confronted with evidence, including a failed polygraph test, Chris confessed to the murders.
I'm shaking. I think both my kids are blue and they're gone. I'm just like blind, I'm not that person, like, I'm just like, she hurt my kids. Like I did the same thing to her.
It later emerged that Chris had been having an affair with a coworker and saw his wife and children as obstacles to starting a new life. Prosecutors portrayed him as cold and calculating, willing to destroy his family to pursue his selfish desires. The shocking nature of the crime and the tragic details, such as Bella reportedly pleading for her life, deeply horrified the public. In November 2018, Chris Watts pled guilty to multiple counts of first-degree murder to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. The case has since been the subject of numerous documentaries and true crime discussions, sparking debates about domestic violence, narcissism, and the hidden cracks behind seemingly perfect lives. Today, Chris Watts remains in prison, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can exist behind closed doors.